Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good morning, khushamdi, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen, pakhair ragle. Well, these are all the words I know. Today you're watching World This Morning with Shiza Hashmi only. It's a Monday morning, beautiful day outside, and I can't say it's a clear day, but it is foggy, misty, and a very cold winter morning. We all love winter mornings. So for all of you who are sitting in front of your heaters with your cup of coffee and a plate of breakfast, brace yourself because you are in for a very informative session. PTV is where we educate you. Now, before we talk about what we are discussing today, there's just one thing I need to share with all of you. It's a request to all of you. Whenever you go out, please make sure to keep extra or, the sweaters or anything warm that you guys don't have to use anymore, or even you do have to just keep some extra with you because there are a lot of people, including beggars and, street children who are in need of them. It's so super cold outside, and it's only perfect and it's only best to start your day with helping someone. So make sure to keep something warm with you, which is extra and you can give out to people. Now, coming to what we are talking about today. So, ladies and gentlemen, for all of those who are regular viewers of our show, you know that we've done quite some shows with persons living with disabilities, and we have portrayed, their vision of the life in front of you. Today, what we're doing is we are definitely discussing persons living with disabilities, but we are also going to discuss the role of special education institutions, and do we or do we not need them? So, and to talk about that, we have some very apt guests in our studio. So without further ado, let me introduce them to you. On my right-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined by Mrs. Ishrat Masood, who happens to be the DG Special Education from the Ministry of Federal Education and Professional Training. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. I'm fine, thank you.
So thank you so much for being here early in the morning. It's a winter morning, and I know it's so hard to wake up early in the morning, including me as well. And next to Mrs. Ishrat, we have with us Mr. Jawad Afzal, who happens to be the Director of Coordination to Ministry of Federal Education and Professional Training. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for being here, sir.
Walaikum assalam.
How are you on this cold morning? So next to Mr. Jawad, we have Dr. Alia Khalid, who happens to be a consultant psychiatrist and who just moved to Pakistan to serve the nation. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Dr. Alia?
Walaikum salam. I'm good, and thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely, our pleasure. So to begin with, let's start the conversation with Mrs. Ishrat over here. Ma'am, special education, tell us about the department, what are the jobs and what is the duty of this, and what are you guys catering to as of right now?
Thank you so much. Directorate General of Special Education was established in 1982 with 4 different disabilities. 4 centers were started, and then a proper directorate was established in 1985 with the President Directive.
Okay.
So we started off with 4 centers, and then with the passage of time, it was spread across the country. Like we had 127 institutes for all 4 categories of disability, including visually impaired centers, hearing impaired centers, physical disability, and intellectual and developmental disorder.
Okay.
Previously it was termed as mental retardation.
Right.
This is a new terminology that has been added now. So
adding to my knowledge as well. I didn't know that.
and then we have vocational training centers where we develop skills and make them more productive citizens of Pakistan.
Wow.
Then the devolution came, and it was decided that we were restricted to ICT area.
Okay.
And now we are, although we are restricted to ICT area, but the scope of work has really increased.
Okay.
So now we have like 4 disability institutes and National Training Center for disabled persons for the training and skill development. And we have capacity building for teachers and professionals that is called in National Institute of Special Education. Our centers initially started off with primary level till 5th grade, and then now we have matriculation.
Oh wow, ma'am, we'll come to that, but you just mentioned that when you started, there were 4 centers which were providing special education to persons in need. And now there are more than 127 all across Pakistan. Although you are focused in the ICT area, but all across Pakistan, there are more than 127.
Yes.
In all the provinces?
In all the provinces.
Or is there like special attention to some areas and some not?
No. Including Azad Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan, and everywhere. We scattered, like a network. It was a very beautiful setup in big cities, at provincial headquarters, district level. We went big district levels.
Okay.
And there are like in Islamabad now we are giving training to altogether 16 to 1700 students.
Oh, wow, brilliant.
They are all registered.
So the response you're getting from the families and persons in need of this special education, is it good enough? I mean, you've set up so many institutions and centers. Are they actually willing to send their children, probably living with any sort of disabilities or differently abled, to these centers? Are they accepting of the fact that they need special education?
Yes. Now the things have changed. Earlier when we started off, there was a lot of reluctance. People didn't wanted to send their children, especially the female children. And I do remember some of those days when we used to come across like people telling us that, that we have a neighbor, they have children in the house. So we used to go to their house and take them out of give lot of confidence that we are giving treatment and, or everything is under one roof. We are actually, we have a multidisciplinary team that is do the assessments.
Okay.
Initially, and then we have physiotherapists, qualified, trained, very well qualified. Then we have occupational therapist, depending on the need of the child.
Okay.
Then speech therapist. All these services, medical officers, braillist, audiometrist, you name it. We have got all the facilities and under one roof, depending on the need of the child, whatever the need is. We do give all sort of educational and therapeutic.
So you have I'm sorry to cut you, but you have categorized the disabilities into 4 priority areas, let's say, and then you're catering to their needs, all of them.
All of
Well, that's brilliant. Now moving on to Mr. Jawad over here. How long have you been working with this?
I'm working since 30 years.
Oh, it's been more than
more
around 30 years.
than 30 years, yes.
Oh, wow, that's brilliant. So, ma'am already mentioned that there was a reluctance, some years ago by the families.
Yeah.
But since you've been working with this closely, I want you to sort of portray a picture of how different today's time is as compared to, let's say, 30 years ago.
In the beginning, it was very difficult to sort out and to get them out, especially the children with disabilities. But with the passage of time, now the people start thinking about the situations, about the empowerment of these persons.
Right.
Especially what I have seen, the education make the bigger difference in there.
Right, absolutely.
As soon as the education is increasing in the population, in the community, they have more prospects for children with disabilities. Okay. Now they are bringing their children out. Now they are more focused on rehabilitation and education as well. And also one of the major component that is the part of rehabilitation, that is skill development.
Okay.
So as per one of research by The Economist, Pakistan is losing $32 million to $42 million per day because of the exclusion of a person with disabilities.
Okay.
Now, if we have even the government and community have proper system to include them in the system of economy, we may be able to get a good result out of it.
Better yield, of course. Yeah. And so you mentioned just before the show when we were talking, you mentioned that only around 2% of persons living with disabilities are actually receiving education in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So this is where the role of actually, special education institutions come in.
Yeah.
And there's quite a response that you've already mentioned. We'll come back to that, but moving on to Dr. Ali over here. We have sort of, started the discussion of denial by family and how things are changed now because of education. They are willing to send out their children to receive special education. But since I've mentioned that, I have done quite a lot of shows with already persons living with disabilities, and they themselves agreed that the first rejection they receive is not from the society or the schools or their teachers, it's from the family within. So first of all, how do we deal with that rejection, and how do you inform or educate the families as to get out of the denial phase as soon as possible, and then move on with their lives and accept the fact that this is what it is?
Yes. When actually the problem is that when the families first realize that there's something wrong with the child, obviously they are the first to have that realization. A child was born normally, for example, and growing normally, and suddenly there are some unusual behaviors or unusual, patterns of or problems. So it's actually a process of grief that the family goes through, and denial is part of grief. So it's very difficult for them, and often, especially in our society, they have lots of children. Parents have other responsibilities, and then one child is now is challenged either physically or mentally. So I think it's very, very important that parents need to be educated and they need to be supported and counseled in the right way. But how will that happen? A family, their first contact is with the family physician or the doctor. That's where they first take the child to. So this is where the education starts.
Okay.
I think it's very important that families have to be counseled in the right way and given the appropriate information. Often they are lost, confused, very, very worried because they don't have the right information.
Right.
Depending upon what kind of disability it is, if you give them the right and a very clear information, Shiza, the other problem in our society is that even our medical professionals, they are very reluctant to give the facts to the parents. If you tell them that this is a situation, this is a condition, this is going to be the prognosis.
As if not to upset them.
Yeah, not to upset them, but that actually doesn't help.
Right,
in the long term, it doesn't help. If you see a child and if you have identified the problem, the first thing to do is to tell the parents that this is a problem, these could be the potential issues.
Right.
There could be problems with their education, there could be problem with their general behavior, their social development, their learning problems.
Okay.
So parents first of all have to be mentally prepared, then they have to be counseled. And one more thing, it's one setting or one session is not enough. We have to repeatedly do it. And again, there is a huge role of media, electronic as well as print media in this regard also.
Right.
And schools, because when at a certain age, when that child starts going to school, if there is a better communication between schools, mental health professionals and parents, and they work as a team, then the parents feel empowered.
Right.
They are being supported by the teachers, and they are being supported by mental health professionals. And if we work as a team, then the parents feel that yes, they can handle it, they can do it, and then they can guide it. That now whether that child should go to a mainstream school, or if the problem is severe enough that they need help and they need to then seek help for specialized professionals.
Right. Thank you for mentioning that, Dr. Alia. Since we're talking about mainstream schools, Ms. Ishrat, I have to ask you, you mentioned that, in the centers where you're sort of treating and also educating persons with who are visually impaired, you said they're so comfortable and they're also learning a lot, and even if you go there, you cannot tell that they have any sort of disability. So do you feel like they're more comfortable in studying in such an environment as compared to mainstream schools?
Definitely, it's a very structured environment, and we provide all sort of mobility training to the children, so that they are very comfortable in roaming around. They know where the washrooms are, they know where the doors are, how to reach to the canteen and everything.
Wow.
And this is all done with a multi-professional team that is working with the children all the time, and they are definitely supervised, and there's a lot of noise during the break time, and it is very difficult to identify whether these children are really blind or they are partially sighted. And it is amazing. It is really amazing that how they behave. They are so comfortable. It's because of the environment and the supportive staff over there.
Ma'am, let's talk about the staff. You said that they're professionally trained workers over there.
Yes.
Who are these workers? Are they teachers? Are they, let's say, medical doctors? Are they physiotherapists? What is the team comprised of?
Different centers have different teams. For visually impaired center, there are mobility trainers, and they are train the children who are totally blind. They make the environment like take them around and do all sort of training, like count your steps, and you will find your classroom and all these things. Then there are braillists who help them in learning and how to, for the education purposes. You know what Braille is? That is a 6 dots in which all the alphabets are
Okay.
assigned, and then they work on the classroom.
Okay.
And they do their homework, their classwork, and everything in the Braille system.
Okay.
So it's then we have a Braille press in the center, where the books are converted from normal text to the Braille system.
Okay.
Then we have like a computer lab in which we sort of give them magnifying CC cameras, and
Right,
then
right.
everything is magnified, and they can work on the if they are partially sighted. So it is very easy for them. Then there is another application, JAWS, which has been developed for these children.
Okay.
And now pretty easy. Things have become very easy for them to do, you know, masters, and you will be surprised that now they are working in foreign services as well.
Oh,
They have
wow.
done CSS, and all credit goes to
That's
them.
so inspiring as well.
Yes,
Wow,
of
I
course.
cannot believe that, but that's brilliant. Now coming back to you, Mr. Jawad, you know, Mamisha just mentioned that there used to be just primary education in the beginning. Now there's matric level as well, and to some extent degree level as well.
Degree.
Let's talk about that. What sort of children are being given primary education, and then if they do qualify, what takes it for them to qualify to move on to matric level and then later on?
Yeah, all 4 types of children, they are getting education, and among all 4 types, the 3 are the major focus for us. That is physically, children with physical disabilities, then
Okay.
children with hearing disabilities, then children with visual disabilities.
yeah.
So these 3 are major focus, and we only focus on 3 major areas, that is education, rehabilitation, and pre-vocational skills in the beginning. Then in the later stage, we start vocational skills.
Okay.
So when we start education up to primary, most of the children, one of the very important thing which I would like to add here,
Yes.
that we have a very little level of dropout in our system.
Okay.
So most of the children, they continue from the beginning till end. In the area especially for hearing impairment, we have education up to graduation level.
Oh, wow.
But for visually impairment and for physically disability, we have up to matric level.
Okay, sir, so also you just mentioned there are 4 steps, sort of a framework that you guys
Yeah.
are working on, starts with assessment. Please enlighten us.
Yeah, that is very important. I would like to talk about.
Yeah.
And the first thing is assessment. Assessment is one of the most important area where we assess the child in the term of education, in the term of physical activities,
Okay.
in the term of psychology, and all these things are added in that area.
Okay.
So the second thing that is very important, which we already discussed about, the involvement of parents, community, and all other allied professions. We need awareness. Even awareness is required in all type of education, in the medical especially.
Right.
Where doctors must be well aware about the disability.
Okay.
Then in other areas, especially in the trainings, in training of skills, and empowerment, and all that. Then the third one is accessibility. Accessibility comprises 3 basic areas. One, accessibility of infrastructure.
Okay.
Secondly, accessibility of transport.
Right.
The third one is accessibility of font and education. Either it is in the computer or in different, as Mrs. Ishra told before. We have different type of softwares where these students can easily.
Specially designed to assist.
Specially designed for them.
Okay. Okay.
Then the last one, that is application, how to apply all these things.
Right.
Either by trainings of the teachers, but training of then role of media is also there. Then incentives, for medical staff,
Okay.
for teaching staff. So these are the 4 basic areas where we need to be more focused on that
Right.
and to get better result out of it.
Wow, brilliantly put. Now, moving on to Dr. Alia. Dr. Alia, you know, both of them are talking about the special education institutions. With you, I want to talk about the mainstream schools.
Yes.
So that, you know, both of these are sort of what we need to talk about, because there are persons living with physical disabilities
Yes.
who are differently able probably after a calamity or a tragedy,
Yes.
who are intellectually totally fine.
Yeah.
So they do not probably need, you know, institutions where special education is
Yes.
given out. They can go to mainstream schools.
Yes.
But there comes the factor of normalization and acceptance.
Yes.
And, you know, being stigmatized or marginalized, being frowned upon. How do we deal with that? And that is so common. I can tell you, because I myself study in a university where there are a lot of people coming with physical disabilities, again, differently abled, but they're not widely accepted. So they're sort of, you know, we ourselves being the common or the normal people, let's say, again, we are sort of pushing them to that margin that you're not one of us. How do we deal with that mindset, and how do we ourselves become accepting of the fact?
Yes, that's our biggest challenge we have at the moment. The thing is, it's all like when you talk about normalization. If we talk about the West, where before let's say in the early 1900s, they used to have these institutions where people with disabilities were just put there and they were marginalized from the rest of the society.
Right.
So what happened is in the 1960s, there was this move where they felt that a lot of people were not treated properly in those institutions. They were not given their rights. They had the similar emotional and physical and spiritual needs.
Right.
So they were not being met. They were all put in kind of one category. So there was this big move where they felt that the more we include these kind of people into the normal day-to-day society, the better it is for them as well as the society on the whole. Why is that? We as a society then accept. So, for example, if there are more schools accepting these children into their, normal, they're doing their admitting them into schools, and they are in every class. We have some of these kind of people or children. The children accept them from that early age. There is more acceptance that. There's nothing wrong with them. They can be as clever, as intelligent, and as emotional as we all are. So this is where we have to start.
Right, Dr. Alia, there's one thing I need to add, and of course you can sort of relate all of this. The schools over here right now are sort of functioning on the one model fits all policy, right?
Yes.
But that's not true. There are children, especially I know, who belong to probably broken families or troubled families who are not functioning as well as normal children are. They need special attention. They need extra classes, extra attention.
Yes.
Are we going to ever start, prioritizing that model as well, where we cannot just say that one model fits all? Not everyone is alike.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's a very valid point.
Yeah.
Again, I would say that we need to start by educating and kind of creating this awareness in schools, among coordinators, among teachers, where every child should be treated as an individual,
Right.
and their needs should be assessed as on an individual basis. And here the role comes that how if we better liaise between the schools and mental health professionals, where we can reach out or they can reach out to us. Every school has a coordinator. Usually when there are problems in school and among the children, the problem first goes to that coordinator. If that coordinator is well trained and has better awareness that this is not just a child being naughty or a child being hyperactive, there is something else going on.
Definitely.
Let's talk about it. Let's go and have one-to-one with that child.
Right.
Let's invite the family and talk to them and ask them what's going on.
Right.
And then involve, if possible, a mental health professional and a psychologist, and sometimes the role comes of a physiotherapist or a speech therapist. So some of these children don't have to go to special education centers.
Right.
They can be handled and they can be managed in normal schools, provided there is a better communication between the schools the coordinators, the mental health professionals, and the other allied
Right.
services.
Right.
So yes, we need to work towards a system where we have better communication between these different resources. And the most important, I'll use this forum to say this, that parents who are listening to this, they need to reach out and they need to ask for help. If they find something is going on which they're not comfortable with, and they are usually the first to identify that.
Yeah.
So they really need to reach out to the right professional and get the maximum information and try and help their child reach their maximum potential. If there's nothing wrong in seeking help, and there's
Right.
nothing
Thank you
wrong.
for saying
Yes.
that. It's okay to seek help when you need
It's
it.
absolutely okay, and it's actually you're putting your child at a disadvantage by not seeking the right help at the right time.
Right.
You can actually help that child reach their maximum potential by getting the right help.
Right.
So please reach out.
Very rightly
Yes.
said. Now, coming back to you, Ms. Ishrat, let's talk about government policies. So again, I've mentioned that I was in conversation with one of the persons living with disabilities, and they mentioned that even in the general elections this time, they were, given out a special process of how to vote and how to register their vote and everything, which was great. But then again, one of them mentioned that up to the age of 30, they were not able to get their ID card made from NARA, not because they were not assisting them, but because the infrastructure was not helpful. They could not even reach the building to get their ID card made. So government policies in terms of specially assisting persons living with disabilities.
Yes, it's I'm glad you have touched the topic. Government has, we have developed a national policy for disability, which I would like to show you. Over here we have it.
Okay.
That was developed in 2002.
Can you show it to the camera? Okay, perfect.
2000.
So what does this talk about?
It shows all the vision and missions and objectives of the ministry. At that time, it was we were dealing the whole of Pakistan,
Right.
and then we had all the things covered in this policy, and an action plan. Plan of action was also made up in 2006.
Okay.
Then what I think is the main hindrance is that things are not accessible.
Accessible, yes.
And
absolutely.
the negative attitudes. The main thing is the negative attitude. We need to change the perspective of normal citizens of Pakistan, and that they need to give them space. They need to help them in removing the barriers.
Right.
The main thing is if you provide an accessible environment, they will be able to reach out to every place. And like I usually go to the markets, and I find it is so difficult to climb stairs and go down in the
Exactly.
basements and the rickety stairs. Even a normal person like me,
Even I get knee pain, to be honest.
exactly.
I do,
They're
honestly.
all so rickety, Nobody wants to climb that stairs, and I
Right.
would stand there and just keep thinking, oh my God, how these people can reach the, places where they are supposed to, and they are so restricted. We have restricted the environment. No, you cannot go around. So the main thing is we just worked on it, and the building bylaws were developed
Okay.
and designed by manual. And I have another book for accessibility code
Right.
in 2006. This is the one.
The Accessibility Code of Pakistan. Okay.
And it has got each and everything with inch by inch specifications. And this is the manual, design manual for guidelines of accessibility.
This is for all the infrastructure buildings, all
Yes,
of them?
all of them.
Okay.
And the problem right now is these things have not been implemented.
Right.
I would like to, through this conversation, I would like to put forward this thing that anybody who needs any guidance, all specification, if you look at the manual, you'll find how to, like for example, this thing.
Okay.
As you can see, by centimeters, and everything is there. Only thing is that you need to just
Study this once.
apply it. I would request that this should be implemented as soon as possible
Right.
for persons with disabilities, so that environment becomes accessible and support for the equality and equal participation, inclusiveness.
Right.
We are actually aiming for inclusiveness,
Inclusiveness,
because
definitely.
government cannot cater all the needs of all the special persons. We really need to work on inclusive education. But the point is, are we ready? The attitudes and the teachers need to be given all the confidence and
Right.
all the trainings and for the capacity building in normal education system.
Right.
I mean, we call it normal education system because we are special need, we are special education, so we always call them normal education, but we are catering all the syllabus, and all the curriculum is modified according to the need and requirement of each and every child.
Okay.
And we have individualized education plan.
Okay.
And the most important thing is, round the year, we take admissions. There is no restriction that in March or in February we are
Right.
going to
Whenever
open.
they want to.
Whenever they are
Okay.
always welcome. We are ready for the early intervention. As soon as they step into the center, they are a liability.
Wow, wow.
And we take care of them, we take them around, and we provide all the facility, do the assessments. Sometimes, children with different disabilities come over, and we have to see which center is the most suitable one.
Right.
And
And then you cater to the needs accordingly. Well, that's
Accordingly.
perfect. That's perfect. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're now headed out to a short break. But when we come back, we're discussing the targets set by the present, let's say, the federal ministry regarding this issue. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Good morning.
Book is life. Book is hope. And book is light for the future.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Well this morning, and today we're discussing something very important. We're discussing persons living with disabilities and how to cater to their need on individual level, on a community level as well, on the federal level, ministry level, yes. And also, is there a need of special education institutions in Pakistan or not? So just before we went out on a short break, we were discussing what the targets of the present, let's say, federal ministry are, and when are we going to achieve those targets. So, Ms. Ishut, please address this.
The present government has taken a lot of interest in inclusiveness and equality of the disabled persons. And as you must have heard that they have started out of school children program, and
Yes,
all
yes.
those things have been mobilized very quickly. And it is said that by the government, present government is focusing like, no, everybody wants to be heard and everybody wants to be included in a normal setup, and they should not be left out.
Okay.
So what the present government is planning is to achieve all the goals. Like we had some plans of rural areas, and 4 projects were previously it was, they are in the pipeline. So what we are going to do is do the screening, early intervention, assessments, and quickly do the intervention process and send them to the mainstream schools.
Okay.
So, and make it is very easy, it's not very difficult, not too much expenditure is required if the teachers are taken on board and are given tools to cater the needs of these children. And I would suggest that what we can do for the school teachers, that they should be given some incentives like a bonus in a year for catering some challenging students in their class, which would be so encouraging that you have to give some incentive so
Right,
that
definitely.
that will really count a lot. And then special education directorate can always be there and help them in taking care of what are the individual needs of the child, and one of the teachers can go in, support the teacher in the class, and then they can carry on. You know, the children are very adaptable. It is very easy for them to be doing all sort of exercises what the teachers are doing. And the most important thing is the wheelchair users, they need a little bigger space. Like for example, if a normal child needs 3 by 3 feet space, they need 6 by 6 for the wheelchair, because they need to rotate, and then they want to be, they don't want to be touched all the time to be carried over, and they want to be independent. They want to be independent, of course, which is a very positive approach. So things are going to be, inshallah, we are looking forward, and things are going to work out. And I would like to add here that our minister, Shafqat Mahmood, the other day on the 3rd December, he informed me that our subject would be shifted to health ministry, because he was having a presentation, and he said, this relates to purely health department, and I'm so grateful for all the vision that he has and trust he has in all the institutes. Inshallah, we will be better off.
Of course, inshallah. Of course.
Inshallah.
So basically, we're working on inclusion on top.
Exactly.
And we're soon going to achieve that in all the factors that you've just mentioned.
The year they have given is 2030.
2030. Okay.
Inshallah.
Vision 2030. Perfect. So coming to you, Mr. Jawad, first of all, we mentioned that there are around 127 or more than that total institutions all across Pakistan. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Secondly, we cannot, sort of move away from the fact that a very large segment of rural population exists in Pakistan. And to cater to that segment of the society, because due to the conditions that they're living in, naturally they also have a lot of children with disabilities. And they're not very aware of what the conditions are or where to go to about them. So catering to that segment of the society, what should we be doing, or what should the government schools be doing in order to, incorporating with the mainstream education system?
So first of all, I would like to discuss about 127 different units,
Centers,
which
yes.
we actually shifted to provinces. That is 127 units of centers, in fact. And now in Punjab, I think so, that is more than 300 different centers for rehabilitation and education for children with disabilities.
Right.
And evenly so, I think so, it's also created a lot of different centers and rehabilitation centers in Sindh and Balochistan as well. And KPK also worked a lot on it. And here I would like to say one thing that is about GB, Gilgit-Baltistan. They did a very good work on it.
Okay.
And now they extended this system of education in all 7 and 10 different, districts in GB.
Right.
And now the second part of the question, that is about rural population. As we all know, 70% of the population that is residing in the rural setting. So we must be very much focused on this type of this area.
Right.
In the world, about 80% of population with disabilities that is living in developing countries.
Okay.
So poverty and disability, they are reciprocal, they are directly proportional.
Interlinked, right.
Yeah, interlinked.
Yes.
So in rural areas, we must focus on BHUs
Yes.
and RHCs, rural health centers,
Yeah.
then in the schools.
Okay.
So if we may able to have a system in that area, a system of assessment, system of screening, then education. So in my opinion, we will be able to render the services to a majority of the population with disabilities.
So that's a great vision, but are we working towards that?
Yeah, we working in term of trainings and in term of as our Director General told before, that we developed books, manuals, and also many books, especially on sign language, where we developed books, 2 books on sign language.
Right.
So we are working on these areas. And now if these areas may be shifted to rural settings, I think so we will get very good results out of it.
Okay, we're hopeful. Let's see.
Yeah.
Now, you know, Doctor, coming to you back, Dr. Alia, I'm so sorry. So when we're talking about, we've talked about the part of role of government and role of the ministries and whatnot, but there's one thing that we keep forgetting, not also families, communities. I want to talk about the psyche of the people like us. And you know, when we also mentioned that buildings and everything, so whenever we go to a restaurant or any university or any shopping mall or anything, there are so many difficulties that any person with a physical disability or any sort of disability has to face in terms of, you know, exception of course, but accessibility as well. Why is everything commercial? Why does a restaurant have to think we have to build so many stories and look beautiful, but not cater to the need of people who might also be coming there? What is the psyche that we're talking about, and how can we fix that? Like addressing the people like us. Please go on and tell them how they can improve themselves to make the people living with disabilities more accepted.
Well, Shiza, it's all about the mindset. Because everything is commercial now,
Yeah.
we are catering for the majority.
Right.
And very few people think of the minority. And my role here is to actually educate people about that minority.
Yeah.
And
And
again,
not consider them as a minority, to be
well,
honest.
minority in terms of it is
Yeah,
a
I get it.
minority.
Right, definitely.
So the unfortunate thing is, again, the education has to start from the families, from the extended families at large, and then the society, the schools, and all the other aspects of life. I'm going to take this opportunity to highlight one point. Being a psychiatrist and dealing with people with mental health problems like depression, anxiety disorders, other behavioral disorders, there is so much stigma in terms of even normal people accessing mental health services because they feel that, they don't want to go to a psychiatrist to address these problems.
Right.
Now, the huge concern I have is, what about people with intellectual disabilities? They are apparently they have twofold, or the research says that they have double the incidence of mental health problems as compared to general population. How are they going to access the mental health services at the right time when the rest of the population is not accessing? What I'm trying to say here is, and especially to the families, mothers, fathers, family members who are living with such children, there is often that they have problem with communication.
Right.
I'm especially talking about those children with learning difficulties.
Okay.
So they may not come to you and say, I'm drifted from your question, but it's very important. I need to highlight this. They may not come to the parents and say, I'm feeling low and I'm feeling sad and I'm not happy. They will not say that. The problem and will manifest itself as behavioral challenges. These children suddenly may start becoming very hyperactive, very, very restless. They may start becoming violent and aggressive.
Right.
So the parents need to understand there's something else going on that needs addressing. Often supporting the child, giving them a hug, and then telling them that everything is okay, it's all going to be okay, you can talk to us.
Be there for them.
And be there for them.
Right.
And also not to forget that if these children are going out, like you said, into the society, into public places, into parks, and they are facing marginalization and bullying,
Right.
that will be manifesting as depression and low mood at home.
Definitely.
So the parents have to be mindful that what's going on, and those things need to be addressed by accessing the right professional.
Right, very rightly said. Thank you so much for all of you for coming here, Ms. Ishrat, Mr. Jawad, and Dr. Alia as well. It was a brilliant conversation. Thank you. It was our pleasure to have you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we discussed all the issues that you've heard, of course, and it's actually very amazing to see that the Federal Ministry is doing a lot about inclusion, and in the future, according to the Vision 2030, we are looking at a very prosperous and better Pakistan. So, if there's anything you need to add to our conversation, write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of World This Morning. On Twitter, World This Morning without a G, Daily Motion, and YouTube, World This Morning, and the repeat is going to be at 11 p.m. Till the next time, stay tuned. Good morning.